Good morning, everybody, and thank you for such a brilliant opening address, Dr. Pant. Greetings to the ambassador from Iceland. I think what we've got today in the first panel, where we are discussing the opportunities, challenges, and the road ahead for net zero in India, is a very consequential discussion right at the beginning of the proceedings. So without much ado, what I'm going to do is allow my panel here to introduce themselves. And while introducing themselves, here's a little challenge. What is the one thing that you would like to do today as a thinker, as a strategist, as a doer, which all of you have been in various roles in the past, which would have impact not just today, but also in the next 5 years? So let's start with you, Mr. Kumar, because you've traveled the entire journey of solar energy, right, from the rooftop solar schemes at SE Solar Energy Corporation and the International Solar Alliance, where your policy initiatives have actually translated to operational gigawatts. So what is the one thing you'd like to do today which would have an impact right now and in the next 5 years?
The net zero journey that we have started, I think we are on track. In India, as you say, by 2070 we will have net zero. That's our target. And we have a very progressive policy of 2030, 500 gigawatt of renewable energy. So there are many tracks which are moving towards net zero. Some of them may take more accelerated position, some may lag behind. But then one thing, as you said, what I would like to do, as Dr. Pant had said about a small is beautiful. So I would rather like to have intervention on the agriculture sector. Solar, of course, has made some headway through solar irrigation pumps. But agrivoltaics is something which has a very big potential in the country and which is going to directly impact farmers, particularly the small farmers. The Kusum scheme is there, which is targeting up to 2 megawatt maximum a farmer can set up. And as you all know, farmers don't have that capacity to set up projects. So they need hand-holding, financing, and what needs to be produced below the solar panels is also a very creative thing which can be done, very innovative way, what kind of things we can produce. And it will be directly impacting the small farmers. So that is one area I think has a great potential and we need to focus on that. And it will definitely add to net zero targets what we are trying to do. Thank you.
Okay. That's a great start, Mr. Kumar. Now we have with us Mr. Gautam Sinha, who spent a lifetime in the oil and gas industry, specifically as in the DGH, Director General of Hydrocarbons, as well as ONGC. Now, at one end, we heard from Dr. Pant that we are still 89% dependent on hydrocarbons, in spite of our best efforts of unleashing all the 7 horses of the sun, Suraj ka saatwa ghora, but ek hi ghore pe chal raha hai desh. So, from your perspective, how do you see this coming through? What is the one thing that we need to do? We heard Mr. Rakesh Kumar. What is the one thing that you think would change the way we are looking at hydrocarbons now in the path to net zero?
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Am I audible? Yeah. So I think, first of all, I thank GEEF Foundation for inviting me. So with my background in oil and gas sector, I can say that while we are targeting net zero by 2070, and we have taken a multi-pronged approach in terms of increasing renewable energy, in terms of thinking of carbon capture and storage, in terms of sustainable agriculture, all those things. But being in oil and gas sector, for exploration, production and development, which I see is missing, is basically we need to really increase the efficiency, enhance the efficiency and conservation of energy. Because I can see that these are the low-hanging fruits. The others are going on parallelly, like carbon capture will take more time to study and understand. But if in oil and gas processes you can see, there are huge amount of inefficiencies in terms of processes. Not only oil and gas sector, industry, residential and commercial. So if we really can use the technologies which are more efficient for any processes. I can give a good example. For example, in case of residence, if you see that now I am being from ONGC, so ONGC took a decision that all new buildings will be called green building. Earlier the buildings were designed in a normal way, but when ONGC started designing its offices all across India, the new concept called green building where they will take the solar energy, rooftop solar, they will use the generate power from the solar energy, they will put the sensors in each room so that power is not wasted, and the waste water is recycled, entire water is recycled in the building for reuse. So there's a small changes. So they have used the new technologies and efficiencies, and they have achieved a lot of emission reduction, lot of process efficiency improvement, and a lot of benefits for the country. So my takeaway is the low-hanging fruit is if you really can increase the process efficiencies and energy conservation, that will give an immediate term a lot of greenhouse emission reduction and the help to push towards the net zero.
Excellent. So we are moving slowly in a very logical direction. Mr. Kumar mentioned small is beautiful. You're talking about a more productive and an efficient way. And just next to you is sitting Dr. Gaurav Bhatiani. I think you could actually talk in terms of the financing of it. Where is the money going to come from? Because what we are seeing over and over again is that great intentions are there, models are there, but they're just not catching fire, to use a bad term, or setting off the fire of hydrocarbons and getting towards net zero. So let's hear from your perspective. What is the one thing that India must do today which will have the next 5-year impact?
Thank you. Namaskar. Good morning to all the excellencies and dignitaries here, and it's my pleasure. If you were to ask me only one thing to do, it's a difficult choice. But putting on my economist hat, if you have to do only one thing, I would say we need to get, our pricing signals right. And when I say pricing signals right, it cuts across the entire energy value chain. We have lots of distortions in our energy pricing. One example for, you said financing. So for example, pricing for carbon, needs to be there. We are talking of a carbon market, but still I think fairly restrictive in terms of sectors and so on. So I think we need to start pricing and charging for use of energy, which has a lot of embodied carbon. We are talking of 89–90%. And even though our grid has a lot more renewables, as Dr. Pant said, the energy component of that grid is still very carbon heavy because a lot of energy comes from coal. So I think carbon pricing or carbon taxation, whatever name you may want to give, is one thing to do, and that will bring in the financing that you need to enable the transition towards net zero. Thank you.
And I'm sure we've heard one side. Actually, we've been going through, leading in from Professor Pant, Dr. Pant. We've been looking at the generation part of transition. What we haven't really looked at are the other parts of transition, the other emissions that we talk about. And that's where I'd like to bring in Dr. HRP Yadav, whose work has been in varied areas, right from methane emissions out of landfills to green hydrogen to biogas, green building and infrastructure design. why don't you bring us your perspective, which would be a completely different perspective from the energy and the solar voices that we've heard till now, and give us your perspective on the one thing that India needs to do today.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bakshi. We have heard many eminent panelists and the speaker for welcome address, Dr. Pant. They all have given direction during their time, including Mr. Rakesh Kumar, other eminent panelists, about the significance and utilization of solar energy, which is the energy having zero carbon emissions. But point is that the topic or the target net zero by 2070, it looks very simple to hear, but it's very difficult to implement or to achieve the targets. Why? Because there are various challenges before us, various parameters, indicators, constraints before us, which we are not able to address properly. For example, as moderator has just outlined, green hydrogen, sustainable energy, energy without carbon emissions, these are very simple to hear, but these are very difficult to achieve. So far as the production of green hydrogen is concerned, there are various routes. First, the best route is electrolysis of water. But the manufacturers are not able to manufacture the electrolysis on the low economy, on economically viable manner. So we are not able to produce green hydrogen from the water. Again, there is a threat of water security also. Even we produce the green hydrogen from the wastewater, again there is a challenge of the various parameters. Secondly, the lowest route of production of green hydrogen, that may be waste biomass. Our earlier panelist has also said that production of compressed biogas, that is CBG. Many private organizations are producing compressed biogas at about 12.5 ton per day at Karnal. The name of that private organization is LR Energy Private Limited. Earlier they were able to produce 5 ton per day. They have doubled the capacity, but they are also facing the challenges. So these are various constraints we must address, and the production of green hydrogen, Government of India, the MNRE Green Hydrogen Mission has launched various funds to the stakeholders, but still there is some problem. These funds should be given to the R&D organizations, to some academic institutions, so that they can utilize that fund to do the research and development, so that the hydrogen production can be done in a viable manner and it can be commercialized for the transportation. We can achieve the sustainable transport fuel. Similarly, the biogas route should also be accepted, and it should be increased by giving the adequate amount of funds to the academic institutions, apart from the IITs or NITs, which are premium organizations, and they are not having the financial crunch, facing the financial crunch. The financial crunch is being faced by the private institutions, and which have also potentials of the promising faculties and researchers, innovators, so that they can put their efforts to develop the prototype or technology, develop technology to produce the energy clean and free from carbon. Industry should be decarbonized, and agriculture sector should be sustainable, which should not produce the carbon emissions. Implementing all these, like this ethanol implementation as the transport fuel, as the blend with the gasoline, biodiesel is now not taken care of. Hydrogen CNG blend was discussed, and our MNRE, the top officials are present here. They have dealt with adequately, but still it is not implemented in the manner it should have been. So these are the basic constraints. I hope these present panelists will address adequately, and we will derive some recommendation to the policy makers so that they can pay kind heed to our recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You've actually broadened the discussion, and I'm so glad that we have, not on the pictures behind you, but on the table with us, is a person who can actually bring in a completely new focus and possibly answers to all of these. So I have the pleasure of introducing Mohammad Sohail Akhtar, who's the CGM, Chief General Manager of BPCL, Bharat Petroleum, and he heads the Net Zero Initiatives, Sustainability, and Corporate HSSE. Sir, you just listened to the entire panel, right? Do you agree with me that this is a branding problem? We have solutions, we have a goal. I remember way back in 2016 when Dr. Pant probably remembers there was the RE Invest Summit where all the commitments which are almost done today in terms of green energy generation were put in place. And we're pretty far down the road. You know, 50% of our energy generation is from non-fossil fuels. And yet we run up this 89% of our bill in fossil fuels. We have the technology, we have the intent, we have the capability, possibly also the financing. But we're missing the link somewhere. What do you think we need to do right now and in the next 5 years?
All the dignitaries on the dais and all my friends, ladies and gentlemen, a brief introduction has already been given. My name is Sohail Akhtar. I am from Bharat Petroleum. My picture is missing because it's the last minute entry, you can say. When I had a discussion with him, then he invited why we don't join this panel. Today, before I really start questioning, just responding to your questions which you have asked, let me tell you that today we are sitting over here that net zero. Net zero is all about, what is the basic idea of net zero is everything is driven by climate change, right? So, and climate change is a reality, each one of us knows about it, the entire world knows about it. And that's why all these jargons, net zero, has come into picture. And due to this climate change, the biggest thing which is happening is it is impacting the biodiversity. And the life on this planet Earth can only exist unless the entire biodiversity is in sync. This is a complete way of life. The blood, the water, which is almost 60% of our body contains water. And water, ocean, plant, everything is a complete web of life. And just to have a balance, this net zero is extremely important, and this is the reality today. And before I begin to really respond to your questions and try to respond to your questions, let me wish you all a very, very happy International Day for Biodiversity today. Today is 22nd of May. So today is International Day for Biodiversity. And biodiversity is one area just because of all these things, net zero and climate change and carbon dioxide. And since I am from Bharat Petroleum Corporation Limited, we are the biggest. The product which we are providing today is carbon-based, and we are the biggest polluters in the world. The product which you are using, your mobility solutions and everything, that is. But the good thing is that we have contributed to bring the entire civilization over here also, where we are sitting in the AI age, right from cave to cafe world, which we have traveled. When we started as a human as a journey in cave, and today in cafe world or AI, it is just because of carbon, and we have contributed to build that civilization. But equally, we are responsible to destroy this entire planet Earth also. There is one scientific data which clearly says out of 9 planetary boundary systems, 7 already we have breached. This 9 planetary process, which basically sustains life on Earth, already 7 are breached. So only 2 are remaining, and one of them is climate change. Now coming to, sir, to your question, is it a branding or something like that? Yes, definitely when all these things, green concept, which started, many of us started using this green as a kind of green washing, rather you can say, and green branding. Everybody jumped into it. They wanted putting some picture of plants all around, making things look green and everything. So this is how anything starts. As a humans, basically we evolve like this. Or any kind of journey which starts, it starts like that only. So there is nothing bad about it because we humans are made like that. But we have traveled a lot. India is committed to achieve net zero by 2070. And all the organizations across the country, they have different time frames. BPCL has targeted to achieve net zero by 2040. And let me tell you very frankly, it is being taken very, very seriously. And apart from dwelling on this, one good thing, which is what one thing should be done, collectively or individually. So my answer to that, without going into detail of technical jargons, we need to have a green mindset. Till date, we have a carbon mindset. Now we have to completely switch over to the green mindset. At individual level, in our professional level also. Since I know I am in an organization and in dealing with net zero and sustainability, how challenging it is really to drive all these initiatives in the organization. Aligning people, their mindset is a terrific task. The rest of the things come into picture. If you have to achieve net zero by 2070 in India, $22.7 trillion investment is required. The data says, as per the Niti Aayog, I was just going through one report. So it says $22.7 trillion. And what is our current GDP? That is $4 trillion. So you can understand the kind of money which is also required. Another big challenge which we are going to face is the technological maturity and commercialization of the technology. So from where the money is going to come, we have to find it out because many of our projects are not getting through due to these IRR issues. And I fully agree with sir, I'm forgetting your name, who dwelt on the energy efficiency. So we in BPCL, let me just tell my experience in BPCL, what exactly we are doing. We have already made a plan of 1 lakh crore investment by 2040. 1 lakh crore investment, that is a mammoth investment we have planned. And the first thing is that energy efficiency. This is a low-hanging fruit, which we have already started doing. We have the refineries, which is the biggest producer of GHG emissions in our operations. First, a scope 1 and a scope 2. Second important thing in oil and gas sector is that hydrogen, because many of our refineries use hydrogen for the refining processes. So we are doing in a big way, and BPCL has the biggest hydrogen plant in our Bina refinery, which is the first biggest plant commissioned among the oil PSUs. And many other hydrogen plants already we are working through the municipal waste, through some basically municipal waste, biomass based. So that is one area we have taken. And the third part is that in mobility solutions, if you want to have a clean energy, then ethanol. So we have already set up a refinery in Orissa, recently commissioned second generation with an investment of 1,600 crore. See, these are, and another area which can really play a very important role is CCUS. So there is no option, sir, first option, second options. Simultaneously, we have to work on many of the options. If you just do only one option, it is not going to solve the problem, and we are not going to achieve the target by 2040, by 2070. So many pronged initiatives have to be taken together. So there is no choice, and it varies from one organization to other, depending on the materiality of their own organization. They have to work very hard. The 6-7 levers we have taken, and on that we are working. Thank you so much. Sorry for it. Since it was a last-minute entry, so I had to.
No, this is excellent.
Take some more time.
This is excellent because it sort of throws the cat among the pigeons, and it also gives me the chance to play a small game, a pretend game, let's say, because I see the problem and the solution sitting at the same panel, right? Imagine the 5 of you are in that space where you can create policy and implement it at the same time on behalf of, say, the government of India. Now, wearing your distinct hats, You, sir, have played a leadership role in the solar industry. Sinha, sir, has played a role in the DGH, hydrocarbons place. Bhatiani, sir, you are a finance and just transition expert. Yadav ji is a multi-dimensional person, but with a very strong focus on infrastructure, environment, and civil engineering. You, of course, have a sales and marketing and now energy transition play. So you're actually looking at, the same problem from multiple angles. How would you go around solving it? And let's take it, step by step. Let's say there are four pieces to it. There is a technology piece, there is a equity piece, as in the financing piece. There is an adoption piece, and there is a scale piece. So independently, how would you go around thinking about this? And you can pick up any of the things that you want to, talk about in front of this audience. And, let's look at what can be a particular solution ahead, right? Would you like to start?
Mr. Yadav was talking about pilot demonstration projects. Let me start with the solar itself. We were stationed in National Institute of Solar Energy, and there were some very good, pilot projects. To mention 2 or 3. One was cold storage through solar. A small 4 kilowatt system, water battery. The temperature could be at around 4 degrees centigrade. And these are ideal for farmers, for their small farmers in a village or panchayat where they can have their produce, because there is a large number of food that is getting destroyed because they are not able to reach the market. That is a proven technology, but it is being adopted very slowly. Funding can be one challenge. Branding or marketing could be another challenge, how to reach to those farmers. Similarly, milk chilling plant through solar. There are huge number of pilot projects, but the question is how to scale it up. When solar, after the National Solar Mission, we in the Solar Energy Corporation started trying to scale up. Rooftop solar, of course the target was quite big, but we have not reached that scale, and of course now Prime Minister's program Ghar Ghar Bijli through solar is picking up, but still there are challenges. Another one is about, because large solar is being done, and we are on track, we have done quite a lot, but I will change my hat to International Solar Alliance here. India has a target, we have technology, we have been able to do things. But we also want to take leadership as a global south. And there are huge opportunities in Africa. Particularly I have seen, because as an ISA director, I had traveled to many countries. There is so much of energy shortage, and energy accessibility is not there. And because they missed many of the fossil fuel kind of development, so they can leapfrog immediately into solar and clean energy. Now ISA was made to promote solar in a big way, but somehow we missed the, I don't know, because of financing was one of the major challenges. Now the Director General is from World Bank. I hope he will be able to mobilize resource and try to do. But many of the countries are not able to take forward, though many of them have placed for this net zero kind of thing, and they want to do, but technology is one part, capability to execute is another, and how to get the finance. So if these, thing could be in a focused way we can do, and many a time government initiative sometimes takes bureaucratic, it takes very long. How to make it more commercial, how to make private sector interested in those initiatives. Make them, because going to Africa, people are here, if you look at solar, so much of competition. Prices have come down to 2.5 rupees. You go to Africa, you will get 7 cents, 8 cents, 11 cents. But people are not aware, and they feel there is so much of risk. But if those who have been able to take the risk are making a lot of benefits. So, and there are so many opportunities. So you don't have to compete with, 3 rupees, 4 rupees, and you are breaking your head here. You can just move on. And you have to just look at those countries. Of course, you have to move first on the safer side, where the law and order is good, or, not. Sometimes even dictatorship, if you go, decision making is quick, and you can do the projects. So ultimately, when we're talking about net zero, we are not talking about net zero of India. We are talking of the earth, the global thing. So wherever things get developed, it adds to net zero. So India can play a very big role in the global south, and we have to mobilize our resources, our capabilities, our private sector to capture those markets. China has entered quite a big, but we have some strengths because when we go to some countries, we are able to create employment, we are able to create skill development, we make them capable. Chinese sometimes they are doing is they are bringing the entire team, they do the project and go away. And local people are not getting trained. So skill development, because skill gap is also very important. Even in India, if you look at skilled people in solar sector who are going to implement fitters, technicians, electricians, you will not find the right person. Though we have had a scheme, a lot of skill development has done. But somehow we are missing some of the gaps. So if we go into big way creating skill development also, which has huge opportunity, then those can, of course, today Gulf is in a disturbed way. But people can get job on those countries, even go to Europe, go to Africa and execute projects. So it is going to create employment, and your overall global target of net zero, you can contribute that way. So whatever you are doing in India is good. Even SECI has taken hydrogen initiatives, and the rates have come down, green ammonia, almost 55, 56 rupees per kg. And it is being recognized globally. Recently, there was this conference of World Hydrogen Summit in Rotterdam, where SECI was also represented. And the most outstanding award was given to India for making, the move. So we are in the forefront of hydrogen electrolyzer development, ammonia, green hydrogen. So those initiatives we have taken. But then whatever you are doing, this idea should also spread to other countries. And we can do that with our manpower, with our skilled way to execute projects. I think that's my intervention. Thank you.
I think that was a very holistic view that one got. Would you like to build on it or demolish it?
Yeah. So I think a good discussion. So I talk about the, the problem which is being faced by India in terms of energy security. Pansab has already told you are importing 90% oil and 50% of gas. And now everybody was talking that we need to reduce the consumption of fossil fuel. But it is not happening because it requires energy. So everybody knows that our coal production was 1 billion ton last year, and we are targeting 1.31 billion ton next year, 6-7. Because energy security, affordability, accessibility is the key for the people of India. And although I think the E&P companies, oil and gas companies have set their own net zero target, right, from the private company like Reliance and others like ONGC, Oil India, BPCL, starting from 2035 to 2050 or 40. And they are trying to, their best to really diverse their portfolio. Many companies have opened a subsidiary called, for example, ONGC, I can say ONGC Green. They are in the renewable energy. But the problem is that there's a tremendous pressure from the government to increase oil and gas production domestically. There's no choice. Otherwise, you have to keep on importing oil and gas. And current geopolitical scenario is very difficult. $110, $120, you cannot afford $140 billion is our import bill. So recently, Honorable Prime Minister announced to drill 100 exploration well in deep offshore, which is called Samudra Manthan, and it will cost around billions of dollars. So the government, one way is talking to reduce the carbon footprint. On the other way, they are asking to accelerate the pace of exploration, production and development. Now, exploration, production and development are inherently an area where you have an environmental footprint because you are dealing waste disposal, workover, intervention, spillage, transportation of oil. So how to really manage these two situations? One way you are investing money to explore oil and gas production. Other way you are investing money to reduce your carbon footprint. Yes, the technologies are there. People are using the technology. And oil and gas sector, I think, is the very good, very well positioned to really help the net zero. One of the two areas probably can be carbon capture and storage, which many talks about. And in the last year budget, and this year budget, 20,000 crore has been announced by the government for 4 or 5 sectors, like steel, cement, power, chemical and refinery. That's a good thing that government is thinking to really help the people to come into CCUS. Now, in terms of CCUS, one is that whether we can really put the carbon into a reservoir. So rough estimate by DGH has talked that we have almost capability of storing 600 gigaton of carbon, CO2, in our entire reservoir. The western part of India has more potential, almost 50 to 60% of this can be in western offshore. And we have a saline aquifer where you can really inject. Now, but the question is that it is happening in a piecemeal. Each company is doing their own. There is no integrated approach. So ONGC has entered into an MOU with Indian Oil Corporation to get the carbon dioxide from the refinery, Koali refinery in Baroda, and injecting them into reservoir in western onland to increase the production, which is called enhanced oil recovery. So CO2 can very well be used to increase your oil production. Similarly, Oil India is doing in Assam. Private companies are planning to really capture the carbon from the power plants in Gujarat, bring it to their own field and injecting. But again, the finance is a big issue because these are not going to really pay you immediate payback unless carbon pricing and other things are there. So they are approaching the government for the aid, and I think the new development of the government, 20,000 crore, will help them. The other area can be a geothermal energy. Geothermal is a big way. In the oil and gas well, in the existing oil and gas well, you have a potential to really convert them to a geothermal well or drill some geothermal well. And of course, these two areas, oil and gas industry can really help. The third, I'll talk about the policy. Now, the policy is a really remarkable change in the policy by the Government of India, Ministry of Petroleum. So recently, the Parliament has amended 2 acts. One is Oil Field Regulation and Development Act, which was very old, 1948, and a Petroleum and Natural Gas Rule, which is 1959. So, very two distinct provision has been kept. So traditionally, what happened when you are awarded in your oil and gas block, you can really only produce oil and gas, nothing else. But this time, the government come up with a permission to call it a comprehensive energy project. So suppose you are awarded an oil and gas block, so you are permitted to produce wind energy, solar energy, geothermal energy, any sort of energy, and from the same oil and gas block. So people are talking about offshore wind because we have a lot of offshore rigs and platforms where the possibility of offshore wind is there. So we are talking to MNRE and other thing. Second one is a very stringent provision has been laid down by the government in the new act about the reduction of gas flaring. So what happened in many parts of India, particularly in northeast and other parts where there is no pipeline, the people flare a lot of gas because gas comes along with the oil. So if you want to produce oil, you sell the oil, but there is no pipeline or no buyer, so you have to flare the gas. So very stringent provision has been laid down for reduction of flaring and monitoring of methane emission. And stringent penalty provisions are there. So you can see that from the oil and gas sector, they are working on complying with the net zero target of the government, reducing their own footprint. And because the investors and other stakeholders are pressing them, the company, to really meet their ESG goals. So they are also challenged. Financing is a big problem there also. But I think in coming years, we can see with this lot of incentives and other things, the carbon capture storage will be an area where it will be interesting, and many institutes like IIT Bombay and others, they are working with DGH, and they have all got the subsurface data, geological mapping. So they are mapping the sink and source, and I think in near future CCS is going to be a game changer in India. apart from geothermal energy. So multi-pronged approach are being taken by the oil and gas sector.
Thank you so much. We are almost running out of time. So I'll like to, spend a minute with each of the three of you. Why don't you look at it from the perspective of ESG funding? Because there's a lot of money in the world which is waiting to get invested in ESG projects. Is that a solution? Because, see, money seems to solve all problems. If you have the right amount of money, right amount of investment and valuation, the problem gets addressed immediately. Why don't you start with that? And Professor Yadav, maybe you could look at the consumer part. And I'm going to come back to the story which you just said, bringing the agricultural waste into it. And is that a solution? So agriculture, consumer, and financing, ESG financing. 1 minute each.
Thank you. So, when you look at the financing world, the investment community mostly looks at projects from a returns perspective. While there is some narrative on ESG, I think the real driver remains the returns. And, the returns have to be correlated with the risks. So when you look at, the risk return perspective, many investors remain reluctant to put money into the clean energy transition, particularly in India. And we have looked at the investment requirements, which are huge. We also know the history that, for example, even in oil and gas, which is not clean energy, the investments have not flowed in. That's how, from 70% we have gone to 90% dependence. Yeah. So I think there is a policy and regulatory issue which we need to solve. And I worked in a private sector. I worked in an international company, and I realized that from their lens, the investments have not been justified. The returns, there are angles to both technology there that often while it's nice to try many technologies, but when we start supporting each and every policy, we end up supporting really nothing. 2 years ago, I led a research on looking at clean mobility. I spoke to at least a dozen OEMs. They said, we don't know whether government wants to go towards ethanol or EVs or something gas. We don't know. The other thing is when we look at investments, is what happens to investments which have been made but have turned unviable because things have changed. The investment horizons of clean energy projects is 20, 30 years. And the technology evolves, but what do you do with the investments? 10 years ago, 15 years ago, we were talking of natural gas. Today we have 20 gigawatts of natural gas sitting idle. And when you talk to those investors and tell them to put money in ethanol, they're not impressed. There's also a dimension to the consumers. Today, consumers are becoming prosumers. And we already have cases going on in Maharashtra, for example, where, consumers who put up solar on their rooftops using a government scheme with the clearly defined set of incentives are being told to do something very different from what was in the policy. So policy and regulatory certainty, risk reward, I think are things we need to still think and work on.
Excellent. Yeah, sir.
Yeah.
You have a minute.
In my opinion, the net zero words means the zero carbon emission on the earth, as Mr. Rakesh Kumarji has said. But what is this carbon emission? It is the measure of the emissions of greenhouse gases from the various sectors. Nature is also producing greenhouse gases, but we are producing greenhouse gases much more than the nature due to our anthropogenic activities day-to-day life. So there is certainly a need of mindset to reduce our activities producing greenhouse gases, thereby carbon emissions. Our moderator has said the infrastructure. Infrastructure means the place we are living in, the house we are living in, the hospitals we are getting facility for healthcare. These all infrastructures are also creating carbon emissions in a very huge quantity. How? Because we don't use the green building materials. We have concept of green building, but we are still not using green building materials, recycled materials. So there is a need of awareness amongst the consumers, amongst the contractors, amongst the builders, what are the significance of the green building materials. So if this adopted can be reduced. Similarly, transportation sector, we are using the very comfortable or very luxury cars or vehicles. But we should know that the luxury cars and the cars which are very, very costlier, they emit greenhouse gases like chlorofluorocarbons much more than the simple car. So these are the basic concepts which consumer must be given by the stakeholders, by the prominent academic institutions, industry, etc., so that we can change our mindset to reduce carbon emissions by ourselves. Apart from the technology, that is green technology, sustainable technology, of course we are doing a lot, but still we have to achieve. Let us take some time, but we are on the right path. So these are the basic crisp or gist of our efforts, and if we continue to adopt our mindset, certainly we will be able to reduce carbon emission, and by 2030, certainly International Energy Agency states that $20 needs to be invested to achieve the net zero by 2030. So these are Herculean tasks, big challenges before us, but scientists, researchers are trying their best to reduce. Let us hope for the best. Thank you.
Thank you. Are we completely out of time or 30 seconds? Okay, 30 seconds for a quick rejoinder or a branding comment.
My last point would be, see, we are in a very difficult kind of situation as a country, that we have to become Viksit Bharat by 2047, $30 trillion economy. From the United Nations, we have the target that we are the signatory and NDC, nationally determined contribution, that we have to achieve our commitment by 2070. So in low carbon economy, we have to grow. So what is the choice for us? One is the technical maturity is very expensive. As sir said, the one thing which can straightway take as a country, that demand electrification, because we need energy should be in the form of green energy. The solar is the best. Today the cost of solar has come down drastically. And in the days to come, the biggest source of energy is going to be the electricity. So the way we are going to, everything which is available here in the industries, household, transport sector. So this electrification is going to play a very important role, because solarization and solar is now cheaply available, and we can completely do away with the coal-based energy production. That is one. Second, the important element is the energy efficiency. All the organizations will really play a very, very important role. And third is that your entire supply chain management, how you are procuring the things. As sir pointed it out, that everything, right from design, green building, everything, each and everything has to be specified, so that at least from the beginning itself, we can start making it a low carbon economy. As far the finance is concerned, which talked about, currently it is not very easily available. Let me tell you, and this is the biggest problem we are facing, especially in those areas where the technological costs are very, very high. So immediately India, what can do from this, for example, 7 million ton of hydrogen is required in India for industries like fertilizers, for refining, and some other applications, industrial applications. And this area also, hydrogen is needed. And if you produce green hydrogen surplus, currently it is completely coming from fossil fuels. Methane, that is steam, SMR technology, you can say it. So that source, that is also, it can create a very big impact. Almost 20% of the GHG emission can be controlled through this hydrogen technology. For that electrolyzer, we need a lot of R&D investment. Currently, 2-3 technologies are available as far as electrolyzer is concerned, and it is a very expensive phenomenon today. Another important element for India is that biogas-based, bio-waste, agriculture waste, which is available in India in a big way. And that's why we, as a part of the strategy, we have taken that we are going to set up large number of CBG plants across the country. And another thing which, if you want to make India clean also together, municipal solid waste, that is one area where huge participation of organizations, private and public investment is required. Then that will not only make our cities clean, it will produce gas that can be blended with the PNG, which is coming to our houses. So these are 4-5 elements immediately. If you start really focusing, then we can make India clean, pollution-free also, plus we can meet our energy demand. Thank you so much, sir.
I think that was a very well-rounded statement, and I think all of us echo with it. I'm sorry we don't have any further time. I know there will be questions at the back of the hall, but thank you so much, the panel, and thank you for giving us the time and letting us overdue.